I'm one of those who wants to make sure that everyone around me is okay, everyone else is having a good time. But I'm not always okay. And it didn't take me until I was much older to know that not being okay is okay.
Definitely is.
I mean, like, we're kind of brainwashed, I guess, as a society that when someone's, even at an early age, if I came to you and said, "Hey, Tiffany, how are you doing today?" What's your response?
I'm fine.
You're fine, right? Like, I feel like we all need t-shirts that say, "I'm fine, everything's fine, it's okay." Like, that's just our automatic response to when someone asks us how we're doing. But I've learned as I got older, like, it's okay to say, like, "Hey, I'm struggling today."
Have you or someone you know been affected by mental health or substance use disorder? Well, you are not alone. Welcome to the podcast, Riverfront Talks, Substance Matters. I am Tiffany Moore, the coordinator for the Beaufort County 360 Behavioral Health Task Force. We're going to sit down and have some in-depth conversations with individuals who may have struggled themselves with mental health or substance use disorder, or perhaps know someone who has struggled. Either way, we're going to have some inspiration, motivation, and maybe even some tearjerkers. Welcome to the podcast, Riverfront Talks, Substance Matters.
Welcome back to Riverfront Talks, Substance Matters. I'm here today with your beautiful host, Tiffany Moore, downtown Washington. Oh, wait, that was your part.
In the heat.
It is hot, y'all. Like, if we're sweating, we're sorry.
We're a little kooky. Blame it on the sun.
They can't see us on Spotify. It's all good. It's hot.
Well, my wonderful guest today, who is usually in the background doing production, has decided to step in front of the camera today, and she's going to tell y'all her story. Typically, we have been talking about substance abuse or substance misuse. Today, we're going to bring you the other angle that we deal with on the Behavioral Health Task Force. So I'm going to go ahead and let Kelly formally tell you who she is and why she thought this was an important topic and that we needed to change our angle.
So, like Tiffany said, my name is Kelly, and I have been on the production team for Riverfront Talks since the beginning of time. Well, since the beginning of the podcast. And I just felt like we missed a whole, like, target audience so far. Like, we've talked about substance use disorder, we've talked about going to prison, that sort of thing, but, like, what about the vast majority of people who may struggle with mental illness, but are also, like, the life of the party, right? They're the ones who are laughing and smiling and telling silly jokes and probably the loudest in the room, but on the inside they struggle, right? So, I mean, statistics say that 1 in 5 adults struggle with mental illness. So, like, if we're out here right now and there's 5 of us,
one of us is suffering.
Sometimes more than one.
Yeah,
but
you're right.
But that's not funny, but
it's true.
It's true. I mean, you could be in a large group of people, whether it's at work or at home or, you know, just in public in general, and you're going to be surrounded by those who are struggling in silence. So I felt convicted, if you will, to step in front of the camera, which is not my comfort zone at all. So being here today is nerve-wracking.
Yeah, she gets to feel the pressure that I feel every time we film.
But it's real easy for me to be like, action.
I love it. As she said, she's always the life of the party.
Some days.
Most days.
Depends on the day.
She plays the background very well, though.
It's my comfort zone.
Yeah, so we're going to bring you outside of that comfort zone today, and you're going to have a little one-on-one meet with me and tell me exactly what you feel in regards to those individuals behind the scenes who are hiding their smile, well, showing their smile and hiding their tears.
Yeah, so I felt like it was time for, I just kept hearing this little voice like, it's your time to tell your story. And it's only part of my story that we'll go into today. But I'm one of those people, right? So I'm one of those who wants to make sure that everyone around me is okay, everyone else is having a good time. But I'm not always okay. And it didn't take me until I was much older to know that not being okay is okay.
Mm-hmm. Definitely is.
I mean, like, we're kind of brainwashed, I guess, as a society, that when someone's, even at an early age, if I came to you and said, hey, Tiffany, how are you doing today? What's your response?
I'm fine.
You're fine, right? Like, I feel like we all need t-shirts that say, I'm fine, everything's fine, it's okay. Like, that's just our automatic response to when someone asks us how we're doing. But I've learned as I got older, like, it's okay to say, like, hey, I'm struggling today. And you might not always get a positive response from that. You might get somebody be like, whoa, I'm sorry, but like, I'm not the one, like, here's a quarter, call somebody. I don't know. But, you know, it's okay to have those struggles. And for me, it started really early. So I was adopted, you know that. We actually, or I was born near your hometown, right?
Near my mom's hometown.
Near your mom's hometown, so we could have been related, but we're not. Could be. Who knows? It's up in the air. So I was adopted. I was born in the mountains of North Carolina, and went straight into foster care, and then was adopted not long after being placed into foster care. So growing up, I always had it in my mind, like, man, if my parents didn't want me, then no one's going to want me, right? Like, I'm just not good enough. I was never pretty enough or smart enough or funny enough or whatever. Like, if they didn't want me, then no one's going to want me. And I just that negative little voice in my head that was, you're just not enough. But let me preface that too with saying that even though I had all those negative thoughts in my head, which, by the way, none of those are true. None of them are true.
I agree.
That was not the case. Like, I have met my biological family and couldn't be further from the truth. Like, I was wanted, but in my head, like, nope, that was not the case growing up. But let me preface that too with saying I grew up in the, like, perfect family. And when I mean perfect, like, think of your favorite 90s sitcom family. Like, who was that for you?
The Huxtables.
Right? Well, we were them, like, times 10. Okay? Like, picture perfect house. Like, my parents were amazing. You couldn't ask for better parents. I grew up in church. And when I say church, like, the definition of the little white church on the hill that could be in a Norman Rockwell painting. Like, just picturesque, perfect. Or seemingly, right?
Right.
But on the inside, I still struggled. Like, I still struggled with, even though I'm surrounded by all the love that I could possibly have, it just wasn't enough, right?
It was hard to fill that void just because you knew
Right.
that you were adopted, and it led to questions that were inherent to any individual who has been put up for adoption or placed into foster care.
Absolutely. You have that little negative voice in your head all the time that's just like, you're not wanted. You weren't wanted. And then it likes to switch it up and tell you you're not enough.
Right.
And it's constant, even though you try to drown it out with humor and just activities. And you're right, I tried to fill that void with anything possible. Like, if it was out there, I probably tried it. Especially as a teenager. You know, like, that's when you get all hormonal and you become a little alien. You don't know who you are. You're trying to figure it out. And so I tried to fill that void with anything and everything that I possibly could. It didn't work. If that's your question, it did not work.
I'm sure it didn't.
So I don't recommend that as a treatment option for anybody.
No.
Because it did not work.
Listen to her. If you are having the same issues where you're asking why, you want to know, and you're still, no matter what you have to fill that void, it's not going to work until you address the problem face on and you get some treatment and you can actually talk about your problems with a counselor.
Yeah.
Keep on going.
I second that. What she said. So we'll continue into the teenage years. Like I said, I thought I was Miss Cool and tried to fill that void with anything I possibly could, and it won't work. And then, like I said, I grew up in church, and I was very active in church. And I went to church camp right down the road, Front Oak Christian Camp. Shout out. They're having a great time this summer. I was a camp kid. And it wasn't until one summer at camp that someone, I call her my camp angel, but she saw through it. Like, she saw through the hyperness, the high energy, the
facade.
Right? I thought I was doing a real good job. Like, I thought that I should probably win a Grammy for my performance. I really thought I was doing a good job of hiding it. Because I didn't want to admit that I was struggling. I didn't want to admit that, like, I was sad or any... Who wants to acknowledge that, right? But it wasn't until I met her as a teenager, and she kind of pulled me aside one night and said, "Hey, I can tell you're hurting. Like, you're not fooling me." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm good, right?" And she said, "I want to hear your story. Like, just tell me your story." And I told her, about my adoption and some of the things I felt. And before I could even really tell her how I felt, she kind of already knew.
She's had that. She's been around enough youth or adolescents that she could identify you.
She knew.
Yeah.
But get this, she was also a mom that gave up a child for adoption.
Oh, the irony there.
Right? I had no clue. No idea. So as I shared my story with her, she shared hers with me. And she assured me that, like, there wasn't a day that went by that I wasn't thought of. There wasn't a day that went by, or a Mother's Day or a birthday that I wasn't thought of. And, like, of course I was wanted, that kind of thing. And it was great that, I had that, and she reminded me of the scriptures, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and, God predestined you to become, adopted into as his children. But I will tell you this, I was listening, but at that point in time in my life, I don't think I heard it.
You wasn't ready yet.
I was not ready to hear it. Like, I was still that angry teenager that was like, okay, that's all wonderful. And like I said, it wasn't until I was much older that I realized that I'm not alone in this. Like, I'm not the only one who has these thoughts, whether you're adopted or not, whatever your situation may be, that there are others out there that feel the same way that I did.
Right. And even though her story was relatable to yours, it's not the same. It's coming from a totally opposite perspective of yours. Yes, it felt good to kind of understand maybe what your birth mom was going through. But that led to more questions. Is this true? Is this what she's thinking? Because this one thinks this doesn't mean mine thinks that.
Right. Absolutely. And you're like, yeah, what does she know, right?
Right.
Also, as a teenager,
exactly.
Like, teenagers don't really listen at all.
I don't believe anything.
Right? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I, even after that encounter, I continued to just be, like, distracted and to fill it with anything that I possibly could.
Let me ask, did you ever go through a rebellious stage?
Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely.
What'd you do?
You don't even know.
Not too much, but...
I mean, I wasn't necessarily rebellious. Arrogant,
ornery?
I wouldn't say arrogant. I was actually pretty shy. Internally, yeah. Believe it or not, I never was super cocky because like I said, I had that self-doubt. Like, I never thought I was pretty enough. I was never good enough. I was never smart enough. Like, that was playing through my head all the time. So, definitely didn't have an air about me at all because I didn't believe those things.
Do you think other people watching you, seeing you at school, people you're dealing with, would think that, though?
Probably.
Because, again, you had this confidence that you
Oh, it was all fake.
Right,
yeah.
you eluded this air of confidence that was a facade.
Like, I always strove for, I think that's a word, strived.
We from the country, girl.
I don't know, my country accent, I don't know if it's a word or not. But I always strived for perfection. Like, I always had to have those good grades. And if I didn't, like, my parents didn't ground me. They knew that I would beat myself up way more than they could ever ground me, right? So I always had to be the best at everything that I set out to do. Like, and if I wasn't good at it, well, then I just didn't do it. Because I would worry about it and stress over it and harp over it. And it would cause even more anxiety than just not doing it. So maybe they thought that. I don't know. Y'all tell me. Or don't. It's all good. I hope not.
No, it's just, knowing you, being around you, joking, laughing, all of this. When I see you, I see a confident person. I would never see a person with self-doubt, anyone who is second-guessing themselves. Like, that's not what I pick up when I see you. I see this lady that's super smart. She's intelligent. People love her. She's funny. She's the life of the party. When I'm in a bad mood, I go to her. So, again, I would never guess this until she sat down one day and told me.
Girl, that's called good counseling and medication.
I'm good at what I do.
So true. But that took a lot of work to get here. Like, I don't have to fake it anymore. Do I still have those self-doubts? Oh, yeah, all the time. Some days people don't realize that it's like running a marathon uphill just to get out of bed. It takes a little bit more energy for that to happen. There's some days where I may just be emotional and start crying. Nobody's going to see that, but somebody may ask me why, and I can't tell you why.
And not to interrupt, but this is now.
Right.
Like, this is still a occurrence that you're going through this, even though you're an adult now. I'm not going to jump ahead, but you've met your biological mother.
I sure have.
And even then, can I jump ahead?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I know all of this because I kind of walked along the path with her through this journey of meeting her biological mom.
Yeah.
And even though you talk to her, you communicate well, you're still at that point where it's just like, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, like, I still feel like I have to impress her. Or do you have those feelings with her?
No, not at all. Maybe the first time that I met her, yeah. I wanted to be that perfect, that I don't even know what perfection looks like because it doesn't exist, but I wanted to be like the best version of me when I met her for the first time. And then I met her and I was like, oh, wait a minute, we're just alike. So, like, she understood what I was feeling. I understood how she was feeling. We talk a lot alike. Like,
you look alike?
We look alike. It's weird. But no, I don't have that anxiousness anymore.
Well, let me ask you this. That first conversation in person.
Yeah.
Not over the phone.
Yeah.
In person, because I know it was a little difficult trying to link up with her and get in touch. And,
it took years to find her.
Yeah. When you first sat down, was it an instant ease and relaxation that came over you when you had the conversation? Did that leave or did it remain? Like, because they say there's a different relationship between a parent and a child. And it's something you can't fake. It is what it is. There's an instant connection that you have. So I'm just curious if these years of self-doubt, questioning, all of these difficult times that you had and you struggled as a teen into a young adult, was it relieved? Or what? And on her side, from your perception of how she felt.
Oh God, yeah. I hope
Give me a little bit of that.
So,
how was that?
So let me just say that my mom and dad, or my mama and my daddy, shall I say, that adopted me, they are my mama and daddy. You know what I mean? Like, that, they will always be my mama and my daddy.
Definitely.
But when you come face to face with someone who looks like you, talks like you, walks like you, you're right. It is a little bit different. But the first time we met in person, it was on I drove up, or I didn't drive because Kelly doesn't drive anywhere long distance. It's terrible. But
It's a long drive,
when I went back west to meet her in person, it was like something out of a movie, really. Like, we met up on a sidewalk in downtown mountain town and like just kind of went to each other and hugged, and like we really didn't have to say anything. You know what I mean? Like, it was just an unspoken, just kind of like, I gotcha.
Yep.
And we went to dinner and we spent the whole weekend, and actually she's coming here this weekend here to hang out. And so really the lesson with all of it is she wasn't my source of self-doubt. Like, I thought so, but that was just my internal, that was just something internal for me, and that little negative voice in my head that was going to be there regardless. So even though I met her and that was a relief, that really wasn't the source of it. It was just something that was kind of innate and kind of just always there. And
when you struggle with something that long, there's no instant gratification. There's no instant fix. It's going to still continue to be inside you emotionally, eternally. You may learn to overcome it at some point, but it's not going to just, voila, everything's okay.
It's all better. Like, instant release. No, I mean, it's not like putting an ice pack on a boo-boo, you know, like It's not an instant pain relief. It's something that I have to work through and, you know, talk about. And I learned that counseling's okay. Like, going to counseling is fine. Like, if you think it's taboo, it is not. It is great to talk to someone who is objective and is an outsider and you can talk to. And also finding a medical professional that was able to help me with medication to help me with my anxieties, because sometimes it was crippling. Yeah. And I hate to admit that. But I felt like this was maybe the space to admit that.
Well, I want to add that we think of any type of treatment, whether it's mental health or substance use disorder, or any type of behavioral health topic, we think that you can just simply go and talk it away and it's going to be okay. There's a reality when you have a deeper rooted issue. Sometimes you need to do a little bit more, and if it's going to a medical professional and them prescribing you something that will take away the anxiety, the depression, and all that doubt, it's okay. My main saying is okay to not be okay.
Amen.
So,
but that took years to be able to say, right? Because like you and I, we grew up in this whole, I guess, generation of like, you're gonna be okay. You don't need help. You're fine. Right. But we're not gonna talk about it.
Right.
Like, as long as you don't talk about it, it's not gonna happen.
Don't dwell on it.
Don't dwell on it. You're gonna be fine. What are you talking about? You know, like, whatever.
Here's a can of pop. Drink it.
Right.
You'll be fine.
Wait, did you just call it pop?
Yep. Pop.
Soda? Pop?
That's what we're from the mountains. Old folks say pop.
I learned something new today.
Girl, you ain't been in the mountains enough.
I sure have not. It's a soda or a soft drink.
Well,
that was really what it was. It was a soft drink.
But I actually was in the mountains last week, so
I
picked up a little bit more lingo.
Saying pop.
Yes, it's pop.
Or Coke. Learned. Coca-Cola. Yeah. You want a Coca-Cola? We're from the country. Squirrel moment here. But like you said, like, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to admit, like, hey, I need a little bit of help today, which is really hard, by the way, of saying, like, especially being a stubborn, independent person, and I just said that on recording, so I hope nobody holds that against me, but it's true. I admit it. Right? See? So, like, it's so hard for me to say, like, hey, I need help today. Like, today is not, I am not 100 today. If you can meet me halfway, that would be great, because I just need a little bit of help today.
Yeah. And that's what friends do. They help lift you up.
Amen. Absolutely. So it wasn't until really within the last couple years that I've been able to just say or admit, even to myself, that I was struggling.
That's the first stage. You got to internalize
Mm-hmm.
it. Like, okay, I'm not okay.
Yeah, like, this isn't normal. Like, not everybody thinks the way that I do. Not everybody is, like, anxiety-ridden all the time. Like, that's not a normal attribute, I guess, to have.
No.
So it was okay for me, I finally accepted it, and I was like, all right, it's time for me to talk to somebody about this, because this is not normal at all.
Yeah.
It's normal, but not normal.
It is normal. But when you yourself don't feel like it's normal, that's when it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
When you identify it. Yes, the counselor at the camp, okay, it was great that she saw it, recognized it, but as you said, that still is nothing.
Right.
Like, you actually yourself realizing, okay, yesterday I had a day and it's not one that I'm used to having. It's not one I want to continue to have.
Because when my anxiety and my self-doubt started to affect those around me was when I realized, like, it was time to make a change.
Yeah, you can hide it.
I can hide it all day long.
But eventually it's going to come out. And sadly, a lot of people struggling with mental health problems, they sometimes take it out on other people, even if they don't realize it.
Guilty.
Yeah.
That I absolutely agree with that 100%.
That's, and you can, like I said, you can maintain it for only so long. And then other people start to look at you. They may not say anything, but they're just kind of like, what's wrong with her yesterday?
Right.
Like, that's not the Kelly I know.
Right.
Like, I've had a time or two, I'm looking at you like, Kelly, you okay?
She does. She calls me out on it.
We're each other's therapists.
Exactly. We're each other's checkpoints.
Yeah. Like, she can call me out, I'll call her out. But that's what friendships are. And
absolutely.
Those people that are closest to you that will recognize it first. And like I said, if it's one of those times where it gets to where you're realizing it yourself, you've already done it to other people.
Absolutely.
So you're at the perfect moment when you say, hey, I'm not okay.
Right. So I want to go back and wrap this up real quick, just leave you with one last little story. So going back to my camp angel, right? As a reminder for myself, she had a tattoo, and it was Nikeo in Greek, which means to overcome or to conquer. And she tattooed it. She had the tattoo as a reminder for her that no matter what situation she was going through, that she could overcome and she could conquer. And so I now have the same tattoo as a reminder for myself that no matter what life throws, like with, help from above and around, we're going to overcome and we're going to conquer. Yeah. So to everybody out there who is listening, who may be struggling with mental health, or
look at the camera and you tell them.
I don't like going to the camera, but here we are. I like being behind the camera, but I gave that up today. But for everybody who's out there who's watching or listening, it's okay to not be okay. If you're struggling, if you need to reach out to someone, there are a lot of resources here right in Beaufort County and people. We're here to listen. We're here to help. The resources are in the link below. Look, I stole your line again.
I'm working on you, girl.
My bad.
I'm rubbing right on off.
She sure is. I stole her line. Resources in the link below. And there's probably more that we could talk about, but we're going to keep it short and brief today. But the message just was, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah. And you can still tackle difficult problems, difficult issues, internal struggles. And if you're with someone that you actually trust enough to discuss these problems with, you can see the problem, but you can laugh as you try to find a way to fix it. It doesn't always have to be negative. It doesn't have to be sad. She's not sitting here crying. Again, there are many people walking around every day with a big old grin on their face. You would never guess in your life that they were struggling with something internally. We have clinicians at our table for that reason. Yeah. And I'm hoping if somebody else at the table is struggling, they would help to identify that. But again, Kelly and I, we formed a bond. We get together. Some days I'm like, woo, girl, we need to go vent. I throw mine out, she throws hers
Yep.
out, we catch each other's, and then at the end of the day, we're able to laugh, and it's not fake, it's not generic, It is what it is, but because we have that bond. You can have that bond with a friend, a companion, a clinician. There are
Absolutely.
lots of people. If you need to take your first step to a clinician and then find that group or that tool kit, I think is what
Yeah, a whole
Anthony always says.
toolkit.
Hey, find it. Let us help you find it.
Yeah.
Because again, we don't always have good days.
No.
And it's not always brief either. Kelly's struggle has been continuous. It's not a today, not a last week thing. This has been something she's felt for her entire life.
Yeah.
For the most part.
For as long as I can remember.
And this podcast actually enabled her.
Absolutely.
To open up about it. To more than just me or her husband or, the people closest to her. She's actually to a point where she's able to tell her story, and I think that is so admirable.
Well, I think everyone's story, no matter what it is, like, your story is it is your story, but it's also there so you can help the next person who may be struggling with the same thing.
Right.
And you can share with them how you overcame it and how you made it through. And your story is just there to help the next person in line.
And if you're keeping it inside, guess what? You're not helping yourself. You can't help the next person. You're just going to continue to go on a downward spiral. We don't want that for anybody.
Not at all.
So we're here. She's telling her story just so she can enable somebody else to
jump on this podcast.
Yep. As you see, I like
the seagull wants to jump in on the podcast too. He's like, me, I'll do it.
So does the sweat.
Right? So that's all we have for today. We will see you later.
Thank you all for joining us for this episode of Riverfront Talks, Substance Matters. If you are from the Beaufort County area and know someone who is suffering from mental health and substance use disorder and may be looking for resources, my information is below in the description. We also would like your feedback to gather input about today's episode. Please also complete the short survey listed in the description. A special thank you to our sponsors, ECU Health Beaufort Hospital and KB Reynolds Charitable Trust. Like, share, and subscribe. See you later.